I passed away and met Jesus. It's not what you'd expect. I was always the wild one in my group of friends, me, Todd, and Oscar. We would go out and drink every weekend, get into fights, and cause havoc wherever we went. I never really thought about the consequences of my actions. I was just living in the moment. That all changed one fateful night. It was a typical Saturday night for us. We had started drinking early in the day and were already pretty drunk by the time we hit the bars. As the night went on, we got rowdier and more obnoxious. Eventually, we got kicked out of one of the bars for starting a fight. We stumbled down the street looking for our next destination. That's when I saw her, a beautiful girl standing outside a club with her friends. She looked like an angel to me in that moment, and I knew I had to talk to her. I stumbled over to her, trying my best to act cool despite being completely wasted. Surprisingly, she seemed interested in talking to me. We laughed and flirted as her friends watched on with amusement. But then, everything changed in an instant. Todd, who was even more drunk than me, stumbled into another guy on the sidewalk. Before I knew it, they were throwing punches at each other. Panic set in as I realized what was happening. I tried to break up the fight, but ended up getting punched in the face for my troubles. As I fell backward onto the pavement, everything went black. When I woke up, I was surrounded by bright lights and a feeling of peace that washed over me like a warm embrace. Confused and disoriented, it took me a moment to realize that I was no longer lying on the cold pavement, but instead floating above it. I looked down and saw paramedics crowded around my lifeless body while police officers tried to control the chaos around them. My friends were nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, a figure appeared next to me. He was tall and had a calming presence that instantly put me at ease. "Who are you?" I asked, not sure if I was dreaming or hallucinating. "I am Jesus," he replied with a kind smile. "And I'm here to help you understand what's happening." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jesus? Was this some kind of sick joke? I'd always been half-assed with my faith, so this came as a shock to me. But as I looked into his eyes, I knew he was telling the truth. There was a wisdom and compassion in his gaze that could only belong to someone like him. Along came with that was the fear of not putting all my faith into the man standing in front of me. Suddenly, as if in the blink of an eye, I was in a grass field with a beautiful sunset. I looked around in awe. The feeling I felt was as if I was dipped into a hot bath. I felt so complete and loved. And next to me was the man claiming to be Jesus. Jesus says, "I know you're confused on why I'm here right now." I respond, "Yeah." He sighs. "Well, let's just say God gave me permission, so don't worry about that." I nod. We started walking together. Jesus continues, "You passed away after getting knocked onto the pavement." As Jesus finished his sentence, I looked to the ground. I died? Already? I had so much to do and live for. I wanted a family. I wanted to get my life in order. I wanted to hang out with my friends more. All of these thoughts continued rushing through my head. Jesus, do not be afraid. Let me explain to you what's going on. I say, "Okay," trying to hide my trembling voice. "Let's start off with heaven and what it really is," Jesus says. This grabbed my attention. Jesus starts, "So first off, getting into heaven isn't based on the good or bad things you do, but your relationship with me, which is used for growing closer with God." I ask, "Wait, really?" Jesus nods. I question, "Why did no one teach this? Everyone told me to get into heaven you'd have to do good?" Jesus chuckled. Jesus responds, "Some people do, but most people interpret the Bible differently or tell people what they think is right instead of reading it for themselves. While obeying the Bible and rules set is important, nothing is more important than the relationship you have with me." We continue walking. Jesus explains more, saying, "Some people think if they are good enough, they'll get into heaven without needing me, but that's not true. Because no one is perfect besides God, so everyone needs me." We stop walking. Jesus looks at me and he says, "Do you have any questions?" Intaking all this information was a big deal for me. My whole view on life was changed. I wasn't sure how much time had passed. I couldn't tell if time existed anymore. "What can I do now?" Jesus answers, "Some ways to grow your relationship with me are by talking to me, reading the Bible, praying, and doing what I say, and taking time out of your day to really spend time with me, read my word, and spread my word. Clothe the unclothed, feed the unfed, and help the unhelped." I nod. Jesus says, "Do you have any more questions?" I respond, "Is this the end?" At this point, I was scared as what was going to happen to me. "It is not your time to go, my child, for you have work to do. You must now go and spread my word. Tell the people of the conversation we have had." I looked at Jesus. As I did, I felt an overwhelming emotion I'd never felt before. It felt so real, as if something or someone was softening my heart. I gave Jesus a hug, embracing in him. It was like something I've never felt before. My eyes slowly opened. "He's awake!" someone screams. As my eyes adjusted, I realized I was in a hospital bed, surrounded by Todd and Oscar. "We really thought we lost you. After you fell onto the pavement, the guy that we got into a fight with ran off," Oscar explains, looking worried. I stared into the ceiling. Was it a dream? It felt so real, yet so lucid at the same time. A couple months passed from this, and now I live a different life. I started Bible studies, I read the Bible, and I've started preaching at my local church, doing what Jesus told me to do and spread his word. While I remember it all so vividly, a part of me can never tell if it was a dream or not. The doctors told me I should have died, and it's a miracle I didn't sustain any brain damage. That's what Jesus does, miracles. One thing I can say I remember for certain is the warm embrace I felt when I hugged Jesus. I will do what I have to do before my end comes. I will continue spreading the good word Jesus told me to.